Also, the problem is I might have with this is, when it comes down to UWL, if they have a huge electronic sign, that's in a neighborhood, and it could affect the people who live within that area if it gets to be too large and too blaring, with people who live in that area too. It can block, it can do the same thing that the Highway 16 sign is doing right now. Thank you.
Next, council member that will speak on the amendment is the council member of the 4th District, Jay Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Mr. Sequist. You know, we're discussing a single exemption, but the existing sign ordinance has a list of 12 signs that are exempt from the regulation. And I'm not seeing a section like that in the new ordinance unless I'm just missing it. But was that reviewed by your committee? What types of signs, like athletic scoreboards, should be exempt from the ordinance? Thank you.
I'm not exactly sure where you're going with this, Jay, but the ordinance was to deal with electronic signs.
Well, maybe the broader question is, did you look at our existing ordinance to make sure that nothing was missed that needs to be included?
I hope we did.
And Mr. Wilson, may I make a add-on to your, that electronic scoreboards are exempted in athletic fields, but they may only be operated during the course of regular athletic events. And, you know, so they're not going on all night long, you know, after.
I would have no problem.
Would the secretary have any problem with that?
No.
Okay. Deputy City Clerk, you need that repeated? Okay. Okay, on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, now, back on the main motion, Councilmember of the 14th District, Paul Menninger.
Yeah, thanks. This whole sign thing has been a lot of fun. I knew this was going to be tough. That's why I wasn't that thrilled when right away I was appointed to this committee. This isn't really my role to die on. I don't really have strong opinions either way. But it was an interesting challenge. I gave it my all. And a lot of people came to us. That's what drove us. Some people may think that this is just a bunch of board and city councilmen sitting around thinking, what can we do today? Well, let's go after signs. No, these people came to us and with legitimate concerns, and they're the ones who drove this. And they're the ones who brought much of this about, and I think this is an ordinance that has good balance. We invited a lot of public input. And I think Andrea's right that, you know, some things still should be talked about, but I think that we should support this. There is, well, one thing I think tonight may be able to be changed. Some people may disagree with me, however. The 2027 date, the 15 years it was put in, was kind of based on a guideline of lifetime of signs. It was put in there not so much that the city could go out and enforce in 15 years. It was put in there somewhat more so that we could not do so for at least 15 years. It was put in, and then after it was put in, we also found out state law we would have to provide just compensation. In 15 years, I highly doubt the city's going to have the time or the funding to go around enforcing compliance of signs and applying just compensation. Therefore, it's basically all signs are going to be grandfathered in, and when they are replaced or new signs are put up, they would have to comply. That's what's going to happen anyways, unless we can come up with funding for just compensation. So, one thing I think we could do tonight is amend to remove the 2027 date. Grandfathering all existing signs, and compliance would be for new signs and replacements.
Okay, I did hear the second on that. Right, I did hear it, okay. So I'll recognize the amendment. On the amendment, Councilmember of the 8th, Bob Sequist.
Thank you. I have to agree with Mr. Menninger that what he says is probably true, that 15 years we probably, or whomever's here will probably not come up with money. The point of this would, an example we may have would be in the area that we're going to be redeveloping in the Powell, Hood, Hamilton neighborhood. Should we have a sign that is in conflict with the project, that we could compensate the owner of that to bring it into compliance and make it compatible with that newer redeveloped neighborhood. As it is now, we'd have to go to court like we did with the Olympus sign on the causeway at the Courtyard Suites and go through a long, painful court case and end up paying $250,000 or $500,000, and that's just not right for the city. This gives us a tool to use if we must.
Okay, the council member Farmer on the amendment.
Well, I'm gonna echo much of what Mr. Sequist did. The 15 years is a goal, and that's left to another council to decide what their circumstances are then. But if you leave it grandfathered in a sense in perpetuity, then you're gonna forfeit a huge opportunity. I know of one sign that was grandfathered in, and they didn't want to run the risk of losing it, so the legs had to be replaced, and they hired a crane to hold the sign in place while the legs were replaced, okay? Now, you have to have some means at some point for identifying that. The 15 years is very loose, because if we don't have the money, then Mr. Mediger's goal is realized, it goes forever. But you gotta let the next crew, give them some handle to work with. And then frankly, 15 years sounds short, but most of the signs we're talking about have already been up 15 years or longer. And so, if you don't have this 15-year thing, and it's in perpetuity, then what you have, and we had it on the fence ordinance, is whatever fence you had was since grandfathered in, and it didn't take long with the Board of Zoning Appeals to realize that all we were getting was people stubbornly protecting their ratty old fence. And instead of cleaning up the neighborhood, we were making it worse. And we had to find legislation to solve that. And you're gonna have the same situation here. I think the 15 years is reasonable. There'll be a few signs that will only be 15 years old when that day arrives. Most will be 30 or 40 years old. And frankly, it is time then for a discussion that maybe they should go. So I hope we'll leave it in there.
Okay, on the amendment. If you support the amendment, vote yes. If you do not, vote no. Okay, the yeses have 6 and the noes have 11. Could you read the 6 yeses, Deputy City Clerk?
The yes votes are 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, and 14.
Okay, so the amendment fails. Mr. Manninger, do you have anything further? Okay, I believe Mr. Swans is next. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Happel, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. This is, as a couple of the speakers said, a really difficult decision, but that is ultimately what we get paid for, not very much, but what we get paid for making some decisions. And like Mr. Farmer, I'm pretty conservative, and I'm very concerned about the business climate, but as I weighed this issue, and I might add, by the way, back a ways, when this was up for a potential referendum, and then when the mayor vetoed that, I actually voted to uphold the mayor's veto, because we had a committee that was charged with doing some work, not easy work, but they did it. And I suspect, with nothing other than my own opinion, that if this would have gone to a referendum, the public would have voted very much in favor of not having electronic signs or motion signs at all. And that's not right either. Ultimately, as Mr. Farmer said, this is really a long-term decision, and I believe with this decision, which I will support, to the ordinance with the amendments, will enhance the quality of life in La Crosse. It's good for the people in La Crosse, and therefore it's good for business in La Crosse. Thank you.
Okay, next council member of the 17th District for the second time, Richard Swans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I pushed the wrong button a very, very long time ago.
Okay. Okay, I have no further, okay.